What is up, people of YouTube? I'm the Need for Speed Beast. So there's a video that really piqued my interests. Shout out to CrownSinz for igniting the engine, which started this this reaction and response. His video on why EA makes bad decisions on Need for Speed Unbound really piqued my interests because I myself have a lot of things to say. His video had a lot of interesting topics and points that I want to cover and give my input on. So without further ado, let's start. So the video's here.
In today's video, I want to talk about business.
Okay.
More specifically, EA in the Need for Speed series.
Yeah.
There is a large portion of the community that does not understand the reasons that things happen.
That's
and
correct.
Maybe this video can shed a bit of light on those things. This information I'm getting ready to give in no way should be taken as law, and this is just my thought process.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna offer my input as well. Your video was very interesting, so I just want to give my input and my thoughts on your statements.
I'm also not condoning the actions of EA.
Neither do I. What they've done for years at this point is unacceptable. For me personally, it's gotten to a breaking point.
If I could have it my way, in a perfect world, then pretty much everything they do and stand for in the video game industry as a whole would be flipped upside down.
In my opinion, if I was in charge of EA, I would put Need for Speed in my top priority. Sorry, Battlefield fans, but Need for Speed needs serious help. It needs more funding, more effort put into it.
But as it is right now in 2024, the state of video games is not looking too hot.
Yeah, that's really correct. Consoles, games themselves, it's all shit nowadays, you know? Games are released in a buggy, broken, unfinished, unpolished. They cost like $70 nowadays. $70 for a broken title. I mean, look at, what was that game's name? Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. If I'm not mistaken, that must have cost a lot of money depending on which edition you brought. That had microtransactions, that had an online connection requirement. The state of gaming is not really too hot. I agree with you there, comrade.
Companies want more money with less work.
Yes, and that really bothers me. Look at GTA Online. They introduced GTA Plus not too long ago. They're just gouging and extorting even more.
Game developers are being fired for the most simplistic reasons. Game companies themselves are losing a crazy amount of money and their stocks are plummeting. If we were to compare back then to now, it is honestly night and day.
Night and day? I would argue that it's a light year difference.
I can count on my fingers the amount of games that have released that don't have a letter of apology also releasing with them like a free DLC within the same week.
I was thinking about Saints Row. You know what? I think, personally, Deep Silver owes a big apology to not only the fans, but also to the developers' volition. Because, from what I've heard, the Saints Row reboot was completely different. It was supposed to be different than what we've got. But it was Deep Silver's fault that the Saints Row reboot became the trash that it is now.
It's like almost every single game, regardless of the genre, will have crazy issues on launch, and there will have to be constant updates for things that should have been fixed before the game came out. I also want to talk about this real quick, just because it was brought up in a stream when I was speaking on this subject. I have played more Need for Speed games than just Unbound. Unbound isn't even my favorite Need for Speed game. It's Carbon, actually.
And I totally respect that, sir. I love Carbon as well. To be truthful, I don't think there's a single Need for Speed game that I despise. Hell, even Unbound, which I have a bone to pick with. In one of my videos, I've said it's like half and half. Half of the game is good, half of the game is bad. Yeah, I love Carbon dearly. It's just one of those childhood masterpieces, in my opinion. Nowadays, from what I've heard, the game was rushed with lots of cut content, but it was still a chill, laid-back experience. And I love the story, I love the characters in that game, I love the gameplay, I love the canyon duels. So nostalgic. Rest in peace, Chris Gautier.
And I even played through Hot Pursuit on stream recently. I used to play Heat every single day, and I have Need for Speed 2015, Payback, and Rivals as well.
And yes, I also played a lot of Need for Speed games as well. The oldest game I have played was, and owned, was Need for Speed 3. I played Need for Speed 3 on PC, and I've played like a whole bunch. I even played through all through the Black Box era. Yeah, I even completed my gameplay series of Need for Speed Pro Street. Underrated title, by the way.
All this to say that the things I am saying are not from a perspective of all I know is Unbound. I'm simply putting myself in a business perspective. If I were a company whose primary focus is to get money...
That is correct. EA is a business after all. How many times does a YouTuber have to say that a certain company is not their friend, they're not your ally, they just want to siphon as much money from you or any other guy or gal as humanly possible?
The first thing I want to talk about that may be the biggest issue is why the dev team for Criterion is being taken from their game and instructed to help with Battlefield, if not other things. Following the release of the Twitter post, Battlefield seems to be the real issue, but who knows, the dev team could also be getting pulled for other mini projects as well.
EA is a huge company, they have lots of studios, they have like lots of IPs. It just pisses me off that they're just reducing Need for Speed to such a small development team, and it's sad really, because I'm just being brutally honest with you. As much as I enjoy the online mode of Need for Speed Unbound, those updates, as good as they are, I feel like they could have had a lot more potential if there were more developers working on the game. Team Kaizen is basically like a skeleton crew, as they call it, that are working the hardest they can to provide the best updates for Unbound.
This did not resonate well with a lot of the Need for Speed community, especially those who play Unbound a bit, since that is the team responsible for updates.
Yeah, like I said, I expect the updates to be far more like refined and full of quality, because the idea of like updating Unbound, it was something that was sorely lacking in the previous installments. I mean, look at Need for Speed Heat. That game barely had any support since like Need for Speed 2015. There was no such thing as a full year of support. The updates just need more polish, you know? I don't really hate the updates for the record. It's just that I expect a lot more quality and such. The Hot Pursuit update was really good. It's just that it can get very, very unbalanced at times. It feels as if the police are overly OP and the racers, they have nothing. Even the auxiliaries are useless. That repair kit auxiliary is total garbage compared to Heat.
Updates will still be coming out for those who are concerned. Volume 9 is still dropping, and though the updates may be pushed back due to the aforementioned game dev placement, it will still arrive soon. If we were to put ourselves in a business mindset and ask why EA made this decision, we first have to point out a few things. Battlefield is one of EA's most popular franchises.
From what I've heard, yes, Battlefield is a very huge franchise because it's a shooter. The shooter genre is one of the most iconic, well-known genres of video games.
That is not a sports game. The comparison on financial impact between Battlefield and Need for Speed is not even close.
There was a lot more that happened within Need for Speed sales. Like, sure, the series sold 150 something million copies, but there was like a lot of fees like licensing and brand deals that affected the profits of the games. Heck, who knows, maybe the total profits of the Need for Speed series is much lower, for all we know.
The FPS shooter genre has always been bigger and more flushed out than the racing genre, and wherever the money is, that is where EA will always put their efforts into first. I'm willing to bet that these gaming franchises are nothing more than numbers in an Excel spreadsheet to EA.
Yeah, it feels like greedy, out-of-touch business executives are the ones who just run these games nowadays, these game studios. Honestly, it's just gotten way out of hand. I'm just being honest with you.
They see that players are spending on skins and microtransactions in this game.
And honestly, I'm just telling you the truth, that has gotten way too far. In certain games, like free-to-play games like Fortnite and Roblox, for example, adding microtransactions and skins and stuff, it's acceptable because those games are free-to-play and the developers need to make the money somehow. But in a full AAA title released, I honestly think that shouldn't be an excuse. Keep in mind that I bought Need for Speed Unbound for $70 near its launch day, and I've purchased every single Speed Pass since then. And truth be told, as much as I love the game since it's a Need for Speed title, it's underwhelming.
this game is selling many more copies this year, there are X amount of number of players playing this game. With all those metrics taken into consideration, Unbound cannot hold a candle to pretty much any other popular EA title.
And that is just heartbreaking, but I guess it is what it is. A lot of racing games that have come out recently, I'm just being honest with you, their quality just seems a bit lacking. The Crew Motorfest, a game that I brought from my Xbox, I don't play it as much because, well, it just feels like so much information has been thrown my way. The Crew Motorfest feels like some form of a Forza Horizon copycat, like another festival racer. The game just lost that identity that the first Crew had. The first Crew was like a serious competitor to Need for Speed that had its own offerings and perks. And yeah, we need more variety in the racing genre. Midnight Club needs to make a serious comeback. It still boggles my mind. Back in 2008, how was Burnout Paradise and Midnight Club LA the swan song of their respective franchises, yet Need for Speed somehow survived? Not saying that Need for Speed should have died, it's just that I just wonder. There's something in my mind.
The previous Battlefield that was released was pretty much DOR, which means dead on release for the
Oh my god, about Battlefield. Look, about this whole Battlefield thing, it really starts to aggravate me that EA's spending a lot of developer power taking away resources from Need for Speed into Battlefield. Yes, I understand that Battlefield is a much bigger game, but this next Battlefield must be, and it must be, a high quality title that will blow everyone away, because I am getting sick and tired of half-assed, low-quality Need for Speed titles, especially with the updates on like Unbound. And what I'm trying to say is, I am scared for the future of Need for Speed. If this is what's gonna happen, I don't know, man. I am scared. I am really scared for what's gonna happen after Unbound. I am really scared.
players playing this game. With all those metrics taken into consideration, Unbound cannot hold a candle to pretty much any other popular EA title. The previous Battlefield that was released was pretty much DOR, which means dead on release for those who do not know. 2042 was broken on launch, and after that was dead for months after. This in turn hurt EA's pockets, who counted on the game to sell well. Because this game did terrible, EA is now in a position where they cannot make this mistake again.
They better not. Even if EA is a business, they need to understand the quality that should be in a AAA title that costs $70 nowadays. There's no excuse.
Two bad Battlefield games will tank the series. What will that do? Limit the money they can make on one of their largest guaranteed paycheck franchises. Every development team that they could pull, they pulled together so that this next game will drop in a better condition. Their priority is not on the impact of what this would do to the next Need for Speed game or even the current updates for Unbound, because why would they? Sure, we have a great racing community with Need for Speed, but the FPS community is bigger. It is one of those needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few type of things.
Yeah, that's understandable, yeah. After all, like you said, the FPS genre is far bigger than the racing genre. There are far more, like a wide variety of companies in the FPS genre as opposed to something like arcade racing, sim racing, I guess, simcade.
Need for Speed is not a priority for EA because it does not make enough money and is not popular enough in the grand scheme of things to be classified as one.
I can't speak about Battlefield because I don't really play the games. It really does piss me off that EA doesn't care about Need for Speed, because I want to see a high quality Need for Speed title. I'm sick and tired of the same old repeated discount underground formula over and over and over again. How many times are we going to ask for an Underground 3? I'm just wondering, you know? How many times? How many times are we going to ask for like a Most Wanted remake, Carbon remake? I mean, it would be nice, but the licensing, and people don't even understand about the licensing. They say, we want the Toyota Supra, without even realizing that Toyota allegedly signed some form of a exclusivity contract. It was like the same deal with Porsche back in the day. They signed a long exclusivity contract with of all organizations, which meant that none of Porsche's cars could be featured on titles except for Need for Speed. That's why we had other Porsche lookalikes in these other racing games. Roof, Gambala, yeah, you get the point.
I am not saying that Need for Speed is not popular within the arcade racing genre.
No, it's one of the best selling. As stated earlier, it sold like 150 million copies last time I checked. But what I did hear was that Mario Kart surpassed Need for Speed as the biggest arcade racing game franchise.
I'm saying it is not popular enough in the entire gaming community.
Yeah, You do have a point, yeah. It's just a tiny blip in the huge gaming universe.
Remember that EA was not going to originally allow Unbound to receive all the updates it was, and that the dev team had to implement a paid-for premium speed pass to get the go-ahead to keep updating the game.
It's like a double-edged sword. It was scummy by EA to implement a battle pass, a paid battle pass, in a $70 racing game, but at the same time, we got an extended cycle of support for post-launch content, which brought a lot of nice cars. I'm telling you the truth, I love the cars that were added in the game. People want to complain, but I'm telling you this truth right now. I love every single car that was added in the post-launch support for Unbound. The 959, the Audis, the Taycan, the Maybach, the new BMW, the new Mustang. There's so many cool cars, and I just wish they could continue just a bit longer.
Why is this? Because updating a game requires resources, time, money, and effort.
That is correct. Absolutely correct.
The mindset of EA is, why should we keep funding this money pit when we are not even breaking even with game sales or in-game transactions?
Typical for any greedy scumbag company. Seems like you can't, or we can't even trust any company nowadays. I was actually considering that, should I go on a hiatus from Need for Speed? Should I? From the newer titles, I mean. To clarify. Newer titles, not the entire franchise. I'll keep playing the old games, but unless I see something exciting and new and fresh, I will refuse to promote the newer titles.
The way that the gaming world is, companies only continue to update a game if they see longevity with the money that can be brought in with it. For example, why do you think GTA 5 continues to be updated? It is because the money it is making is too much to not update it.
Yep, and that is the exact reason why Take-Two has become the most scummiest, slimiest greaseball company in the entire landscape. Rockstar themselves have also changed their priorities because of GTA 5's or online's success. They've seen the amount of revenue they could earn from shark cards, and as of recent, GTA Plus. They just release copy and paste updates nowadays. They're not even that good. Bottom dollar bounties, I'm sorry. The only exciting thing were the drift races, the Halloween stuff. It feels as if the last good update was the contract. The last actual good quality update was indeed the contract update.
The biggest one I've seen the most is the story, and that is where we can begin.
Yeah, I have a bone to pick with the story.
EA is targeting a specific audience, and
that's not a good idea, man.
I think that has been pushed on the devs more now than ever with Unbound.
Need for Speed Unbound felt like it was made for a modern audience. That's what it feels like. EA is trying to be hip and cool with the younger generation, with the street slang, the story, the lighthearted story, the trans and LGBT representation, diversity and inclusion and everything. I know that the story might not be suitable for an older audience.
I truly believe that they are going towards the younger generation and are trying to get away from pleasing the older generation.
And that's a pretty stupid move. When was the last time something similar happened like this? Saints Row. That game released. It bombed. Yeah, the series is dead.
From a business perspective, they know that if they make a racing game in general and put Need for Speed on the box, it will sell.
Like a cash grab, basically.
To a lot of the older community, regardless. This is due to nostalgia for a majority of people, but also long-time dedicated fans want to play a new Need for Speed.
People should expect a Need for Speed with good quality. Unbound feels unfinished. Very unfinished. I mean, not undercover levels, but it's just missing detail and it's just missing quality. I'm sorry. It just is, man. Like, the characters don't shift their cars like in previous games. Convertible roofs, they don't activate automatically or manually if you choose. Unbound feels like it could have benefited from a lot of attention to detail. A lot of small features, like I mentioned before, and other ones too, like how many miles you've driven in this car, like grouping your cars in certain categories, fixing that damn photo mode. I could go on and on.
Especially if the last one to release was a few years ago. Better graphics, racing illegally in cars, cool music,
cool music for the younger generation, yeah.
New city, These are the things that are going to get older people to buy the game because that is what they are used to. EA knows that portion of the community is a guaranteed paycheck, but what isn't a guaranteed paycheck is the portion of people who don't know the experience of playing Need for Speed. Maybe they've never played one before. Maybe they've only played one and it was brief. But this is the audience EA wants to bring on board.
Yeah, and they're doing a very terrible job at it. I'm telling you the truth.
So what do? They start to cater towards more and more of a younger audience. Heat's story is darker and more edgy compared to the lighthearted and playful story that Unbound has. Also, what does Unbound have? Popular faces like A$AP Rocky, which the younger generation can resonate with, along with a newer style music such as more rap and pop.
Yeah, but I'm being honest with you. A$AP Rocky was very, very underutilized. He basically had he just makes some small appearances, appears in 3 cutscenes, pre takeover and after takeovers, and he just goes on and on and on with that podcast thingy whenever you finish the story mode, the credits mode, yeah. And from what I've heard, when I read the cutting room floor, because I like to watch or read about cut content in Need for Speed games, apparently A$AP Rocky was supposed to be some sort of antagonist or rival. A$AP Rocky was supposed to play a much bigger role in Unbound. He was supposed to be either the antagonist, and he was supposed to be either the antagonist or someone you could actually steal his car, and start some sort of beef with or something. A lot of content was cut from Unbound.
Rock music and older tunes are starting to be phased out, and by the next Need for Speed, they may be gone completely.
Oh boy.
There are corny Gen Z jokes in almost every chapter for Unbound. For Speed, they may be gone completely. There are corny Gen Z jokes in almost every chapter for Unbound.
Yeah, and jokes that should not be in a game like Unbound. I mean, not like Unbound. Jokes that should not be in a racing game.
And the things that are talked about for majority of the game are almost comical. At one point, I forgot I was even playing a racing game and not listening to a reality TV show.
A really cheesy one. Not in a good way either.
Another thing I would like to bring up is almost every single car that has been released in Unbound past launch has been a newer car. The Maybach, the RS6, the BMW M2, the BMW Touring, the Dark Horse, the Lotus. Almost every single car has been newer, and I believe that is intentional as well. Younger people tend to fantasize about newer and sleeker looking cars more than the older cars such as JDMs and older muscle cars.
There's a lot of newer cars, but there's older models as well, like the DeLorean, the 959, just to name a couple. It's good to look towards the future because, look, it's a tale as old as time. We can love Need for Speed Underground dear to our hearts. We can, but Need for Speed has been so many things over its 30-year lifespan. Running from the cops in exotic cars, street racing in midnight in tuner cars, crew races in tuners muscles exotics, and battling in canyons, sim racing. We want something new. We want fresh things, And what I noticed was that a lot of cars that are in Unbound, they're literally copy and pasted from the previous installments. Some go as far back as Need for Speed 2015.
Almost every single car has been newer, and I believe that is intentional as well. Younger people tend to fantasize about newer and sleeker looking cars more than the older cars such as JDMs and older muscle cars.
Time only goes forward. And I know it might sound cheesy, but we can't be stuck in the past forever. As stated earlier, let's go back to that statement about Need for Speed Underground and Underground-style games and the past installments, the past recent installments since the 2015 reboot. They all had that focus on customization and tuning. How many more do we need, to be honest? And especially, how many times are we going to ask for the same old JDM icon if EA is not willing to cooperate or listen?
This is not saying that it doesn't happen with older cars, but the newer ones tend to grasp more attention. This may be due to the fact that these newer cars are what people tend to see more often, especially in the States, as opposed to older Supras and Nissan GTRs.
From what I've heard, the Nissan Skyline and the Toyota Supra, I think they're not even legal in America. Their target market was not even in the United States. And the stupid feds literally put more time and effort in crushing those works of automotive art as opposed to doing their damn jobs.
When a young person sees that brand new Dark Horse has been added to the Need for Speed Unbound game, this may trigger them to want to buy the game, and boom, there goes another sale.
Free advertisement for a brand new car that a company wants to promote in the game. Because licensing, it's not as simple as it seems.
Now imagine if 100,000 people also thought that same way. My personal belief is that following Unbound, the amount of older cars in the game will stay stagnant while the number of newer cars will keep increasing. For example, when the newer Need for Speed game comes out, it may start off with 30 older cars and 30 newer cars.
Who knows, maybe the next Need for Speed game will be delayed even further.
But up until the next game after that launches, the only cars that would be added are newer cars instead of older cars that the older part of the community wants. They may add one or two, just like how they are in Unbound, to keep the older audience hooked, but the older cars will never equal or surpass the newer cars.
That's actually a good point, because we want some new cars added to the game. And yes, we want the brand new GR Supra, but there's like licensing issues. We just want new cars, like 2020s and beyond. There's like a constant war that goes around. People want new cars, and then these other people want older cars. I just honestly can't believe that. I can't believe the Need for Speed No Limits mobile game can get away with newer and fresh car models as opposed to the mainline console installments, which basically have the same old models. It's good to have new and highly anticipated models in future Need for Speed games.
And that is by design, in my opinion. We can also talk about how Unbound looks compared to Heat regarding the effect and the animations. Who likes colors, effects, and animations? The younger audience.
So basically the TikTok generation, I assume.
It is night and day how Heat and Unbound look, and to be honest, I am all for it. I personally do really like how Unbound looks, but a lot of people don't.
Personally, yeah, I like the design, the cartoon and anime effects. They're pretty nice. It's a fresh new take, There's a huge outcry of people who don't want it.
Particularly in the older part of the community, and that's what I'm getting at. The sound effects, the visual effects, the way characters look, and the things that are done in this game are all for a reason. I do believe that animations were used to give the game a realistic and fun look at the same time, but also they were added to get children and younger people to buy the game.
The character styles were nice. I'll give them that.
Put yourself into a younger person's shoes. What would look more appealing to you? A colorful, slick-looking game with smoke animations coming from under tires, or a gray, dark-looking one?
I'll tell you the truth. If I was a young child, right, and if I was looking towards a game with all these effects, I'd first have to see what this game's message is. There's a lot of things in Unbound that people refuse to accept that are in Unbound. If my parents were to find out that, as a child, if my parents were to find out that Need for Speed Unbound had these questionable political themes and elements, they would never allow me to buy the game, no matter how low the ESRB rating is.
I have a dedicated video for cheaters on Unbound, but people are still asking why EA won't do anything regarding cheaters.
It's the same problem with Rockstar and their PS3 live service game.
The first thing I have to say is EA knows about the cheaters. They know about the mods, they know about the infinite money, they know about Cheat Engine. I personally believe they won't do anything because 1, they see no reason for it, and 2, Unbound does not make enough money to warrant them putting resources aside to make a cheat engine design. They won't do anything because 1, they see no reason for it, and 2, Unbound does not make enough money to warrant them putting resources aside to make a cheat engine designed for the game. The first point is that they see no reason to do it. Unbound has no ranked, no pro players complaining on a global scale about it, think Call of Duty, no microtransactions that the mods could be taking away from. Unbound has nothing that EA cares about financially. If there were money packs in the game and a mod where you could get infinite money dropped, I guarantee every single person who did it would be banned immediately. And why is that? Because you are hurting EA's pocket. There are car packs in the game, and if you are on PC, you can get these cars for free. But not enough people are doing it where it will actually affect EA and their profit.
I would even bother to buy them. They're overpriced. I could buy other things instead for an equal or even slightly lower price.
The game doesn't have a lot of players to begin with on PC.
I've heard that the sales of Need for Speed Unbound were like lower than Heat in certain regions of the world.
And of the community that does play on PC, a lot of them don't even use the mods for free cars.
I'll be truthful with you. Modding is just something that's very, very tricky for me. I like to mod. I wish I knew how to mod. It's just that it's hard for me to understand how to load up a copy of the Frostbite era Need for Speeds and to, add the mods to my desired games. I installed mods for games in the past. I attempted Rivals, but there was no success. And the whole thing, like the Frosty Mod Manager crashed, and I lost all my progress. And yeah, as of recording, that's the reason why I only stick to the Black Box era titles like Most Wanted and Carbon, because those were the games that I found success in modding. And I don't want to magically ruin those mods.
But remember what I said, they definitely know what you all are doing. It's a standard practice to allow somebody to do something up until they start to affect you, and that's when you got to go ahead and put them in the bag. Think about it in not just a video game company standpoint, but also a real life standpoint. The FBI may notice that someone is scamming, and they will keep evidence on the person for a while. But the second that
fair point,
that a person scams a significant amount where it will affect a business or an entity, that is when they will get locked up. That is how it is with EA.
Very, very legitimate point.
Why do you think that Rockstar is so quick to ban people when they catch them cheating?
Exactly.
It is because they have microtransactions, and if you are cheating to get money, you no longer have to buy shark cards, which in turn is hurting the company's profit.
And Zelnick's Mafia really needs that money.
Money makes these companies go around, and the truth is, EA does not care enough to provide an anti-cheat for the community just because a few people are complaining about it. Also, these sorts of things require resources and manpower to operate and create. Cheat engines must be constantly updated due to modders and cheaters constantly trying to get around the anti-cheat. Why would EA stop the team from working on Battlefield or a brand new game to make an anti-cheat for Unbound of all games? Unbound is barely breaking even with profit if they aren't operating in the red as is. Take all the games that make a significant amount of money for their companies, and if they're multiplayer, take notice how many of them have anti-cheat software. Then look at all the smaller multiplayer games and notice how many you can turn God mode on for. Once again, we need to take into account that money is the sole driving factor for a lot of these companies. Half the time, the decision isn't even the devs team to make.
Money is the sole driving force behind these companies. And it's gotten way out of hand, especially in this current day and age of gaming. It's gone too far, especially in a Need for Speed game. My absolute favorite game series in the entire world. I said to a family member one time, if the next Need for Speed game is an Unbound 2.0, mark my words, I'm either retiring or taking a hiatus. I'm sorry, but that must be said. I think I've reached a breaking point. I can't go any further.
And a lot of the stuff that comes from them has come from the top. This video is to just get everyone into a business type of mindset to help explain why EA does the things they do and why it seems like they push Need for Speed to the side.
I respect your opinion, sir. We both share our own separate opinions. At the end of the day, you do make some really good points. I really enjoyed your take.
Believe me, they definitely do. I am not an employee of EA and I have not been paid by them to make this video. It just seems to me that a lot of the community is seeing it from a one-dimensional type of angle.
Which, yeah. Basically the fanboys who think any half-baked slop is perfect for them. They don't want quality.
Feel free to still be mad at EA for the decisions that they have made and continue to make. I am not saying what they are doing is right. What I am saying is that it makes sense from a business perspective.
Yeah, business can be very dirty.
All you care about is money. Because we all as gamers see a sense of enjoyment and not a paycheck with games.
Yep. At the end of the day, gaming was meant to be a hobby.
We sometimes have trouble perceiving things from a different point of view. But if you enjoyed, make sure to drop a follow and I will see you all in the next video.
And that was the video. Overall, I think it was very well made and hope you all could enjoy my reaction. I'll link the original video down below in the description. If you enjoyed, be sure to drop a big like. And consider subscribing if you want to support this channel. I'm the Need for Speed Beast and see you all next time.